What is going on, everybody? Tyson here, and today on the bench I have the Traxxas Sledge. Now, in my last video or two, I went over some of the upgrades that I've done to the Traxxas Sledge and some of the recommendations that I have for you as well that have made my experience with the Traxxas Sledge a blast. But that's not talking about a review of the truck and the truck overall. I've talked about the improvements on how to make it better. So today I want to talk about an overall review of this truck. And first and foremost, let me say I have done quite a few mods to this truck. I have had it since launch day, and I have driven quite a few battery packs through it. So this is going to be a review of the vehicle from my experience and how I've had the time and the smiles with this truck. So one of the first things that I need to tell you guys about is the chassis. When I first got the truck, it had that nice blue anodized chassis that Traxxas did a while ago on the Revo 3.3, and it looks super sharp. But one of the things that I don't like right away, first and foremost, it gets scratched up and it bends super easy. So one of the things that I didn't like, if you are jumping, bashing, doing anything a little bit medium to hard, I would say, you're probably going to end up bending the chassis at some point where you're going to have to drop another chassis in. A lot of people talk about the differentials on this thing and how the plastic cases allow the gears to move a little bit and they have stripped gears. Me personally, I have never stripped a gear. I still have the hardened steel CNC gears that I haven't even installed in here because my stock originals have not gone out. So that's something that I personally haven't experienced, so I can't talk a whole lot about that. They seem fine to me in my experience, but I do know a lot of people that have had multiple gears go out on this thing. The suspension, right off the bat, I think is fairly well tuned. I haven't changed a whole lot on the suspension. I think Traxxas did a good job out of the box to tune it pretty well. One of the things that I would recommend after quite a while of driving is maybe heavier springs, especially in the rear. But I've also increased my shock oil to help with some of the dampening as well, and I have different pistons in there. Now, that's not necessarily required. I did that as a mod because I do like different pistons just to suit my driving style, but I did like the suspension right off the bat. Now, the elephant in the room for me, and I think a lot of other people, was in the rear. The drive shafts were popping out because there wasn't an O-ring in there that should have been in there. I had that issue a couple times. I even got the O-ring and still had that issue. There was just enough play in the suspension system and the drivetrain that it could pop out, and it would pop out at the most inconvenient times for me. So I ended up having to purchase different ones, which I went with the GPM Racing ones. So to me, that's a big knock on the vehicle as a whole. Whether Traxxas has fixed that issue with newer releases of this truck, I am not 100% sure. I haven't seen it going around nearly as much on forums and YouTube videos, so I'm not sure if they fixed the issue or if people have just stopped talking about it as much because it's such a common thing. But that is something for me that is a knock on the truck because I could not drive the truck adequately without a drive shaft popping out, and I ended up having to spend money to replace it. Not necessarily by choice, more so by necessity to keep the vehicle running. Another flaw of the truck is hard impacts to the rear will pop this wing washer out. It'll pull the screws right through it. I did that multiple times before I decided to design one with a 3D printer and print one. I haven't had that issue since. The wing's been solid. I do love the design of the wing. I think it's good. It has this little extra section here, which if you cut that off, which you can do, and over time it will break off. This is my second wing on the truck, but I don't really care about replacing wings. It happens on all vehicles. When you're pulling wheelies and having rough landings, you're going to beat up the wing no matter what vehicle it is, and you're going to have to replace that wing. This section does come off through time of bashing. You can cut it off. I've seen people cut it off, and then it allows you to have a handle of some sort right there. So that's something that I noticed people are doing. I do like the mud guards that come on the truck. It helps keep that suspension back there clean. It does have plastic steering links and tie rods. For me, I haven't had any problems with them, but I am starting to notice that the plastic is starting to almost become oval. where the bolts go through. So you start to get a little slop in there because the plastic is starting to stretch a little bit. So down the line, that could be an issue. There is a mod out there. I mean, you can change these out with steel links if you'd like. For me, I've just left them the same because I haven't broken any. I have seen like a little bit of bending starting to happen with them, but nothing I'm too concerned about. For as cheap as these are, and as long as they've lasted me, I don't see the need to necessarily upgrade to steel or anything like that. I don't need to adjust any of my toe link or my camber at all. The plastic center bracing, or the plastic bracing from the tower and the front, has actually held up surprisingly well through bending my chassis. I never broke any of that, so that was excellent. One thing I have done is I have broke this rear body mount. So it goes across the shock tower here, and it basically goes across the top there, protects the shock tower and the top of the shock caps. I have broken part of it off where it screws into the shock tower. It still worked. I didn't necessarily need to replace it. It's just when I flipped, and sometimes it would get dirt and stuff under there and wedge it around and jam it. So I ended up just replacing it because, again, one thing that I like about these Traxxas vehicles, the parts are readily available and cheap. And so for me, I really enjoy that. I did bend shock towers. I bent the rear one. I would assume when I bent the chassis, had some nasty landings. So for me, I replaced them with Basher Queen. Haven't had an issue since. Those carbon fiber ones are fantastic. Now, there's certain things in my mind that when I break, I'm going to replace with stock parts because they're cheap and there's no point of really upgrading them. Maybe it was a fluke of a break, or it's something that you want to be able to break on hard impacts instead of transferring the force onto something different. So some parts I do replace with stock for expense reasons, and then some parts, as I break them, I upgrade them. The shock towers were ones that I didn't want to go through changing them out all the time because I was bending them, so I did replace them with something a little bit more expensive and durable. I also did something with the front bumper, which is I designed my own front bumper here to put on. Fits really good and it holds up. This is my original one. It doesn't have the body tuck and get stuck behind the bumper, which I didn't like as well. So that was one of the downsides of the vehicle for me. The last real downside of the vehicle, in my opinion, would have been the motor mount. A lot of times you were seeing the motor come loose because of the mount, and then when it would come loose, you could strip your spur gear or your pinion gear. I didn't necessarily like that, so I went with the M2C mount just so I could have it traditional and stock. Other than that, I haven't had any real issues with it. The biggest things for this is Traxxas has got to figure out, and maybe they have fixed it, I haven't heard anything, but their drive shafts, their pins, they have some sort of issue that is going on this vehicle specifically, where the pins are coming out of the drive shafts are popping out of the rear. To me, that just doesn't make a fun situation for anybody, much less somebody that maybe is just coming into the hobby and picks up this truck as they're ready to run and starts having issues. And realistically, this rear drive shaft here, the pin can come out right next to the ESC and then chew through the ESC, cause a fire, ruin the ESC. Any of those things, I've seen that a couple times. Again, I didn't have that experience, but that's what I've seen. Battery system, fine if you're a Traxxas person and have Traxxas batteries. I like to grab and go. I talk more about that on my mods video because that's a mod that I did. But talking about the truck overall, I don't think it's necessarily a plus or a minus unless you're in the Traxxas ecosystem. Then it's a plus. I think it works really good for Traxxas batteries. Tires were good. I didn't have a problem with them. I did change them out for something that I like a little bit better, but that's no knock on the stock tires. I just tend to like these a little bit better. The body actually has really impressed me because usually I go through bodies extremely quick, like super quick. I cannot keep a body together on most of my vehicles to save my life. And this one, I am still running the stock body. I have a couple slight holes and I don't even see it. I don't even know where I have it right at the moment here to show you guys. But overall, it's in pretty good shape. The only real issue with it is right here on the side. There's a little bit of a cut in the body, but the body still works and goes on well. I do like this clipless system. For me, it's been flawless. I have seen other people that it pops off a lot. I have never had that issue. The body stays on, works good, goes well. All right, so here's my stock original body. And realistically, the only thing is like right here, there's a hole. It's the same on the other side, so something right there punches a hole in. I don't know if it's just flex and it's a weak spot. And then it looks like on my last run I did put a hole in right here. But again, this is the stock original body, and I've put a lot of damage onto this. I've also put a lot of battery packs through this. And one thing that I don't like about this front system and this protection right here is this happens a lot. You grow a mustache, you get it stuck in the dirt, you roll, it grabs dirt, anything like that. But overall, this is a pretty strong and nice body for a stock body that comes with a vehicle. It's probably my longest lasting one for sure. So I'm pretty impressed with the body. I do have a spare one that I painted up myself. I just haven't put the plastic supports on it or anything like that. But I have this body that is ready to go on the Sledge here. So I can do that. And then I do have a stock plastic, another stock one that I can put on as well, but I've kind of just been holding out because this one just keeps working, and I'm a basher, so it's going to be bashed around anyway. Other than that, I haven't had any real problems with this. I did change the servo out, again, personal preference, and I changed the motor and ESC out, personal preference. I don't like Traxxas stock ESC. I think they're underpowered and need to be programmed better. So overall, is this truck worth the money? I think in today's world where we're at, with inflation and everything else, as a ready to run, I do think it's worth the money. This thing is pretty darn tough as far as breakage. There is some flaws, factory flaws, with this vehicle, and hopefully they work them out to where you don't even notice that they changed anything and it's just ready to run. They fix the issues, it's out of the box, it's great. But for the early adopters, there was some flaws with it, could still be around. But this truck is durable. You're not breaking tie rods, you're not breaking steering links, you're not breaking A-arms. So once you get that chassis situation figured out, the chassis situation and the shock towers, after that, it's a really solid truck and it's really durable. It's probably my favorite truck that I have right now, my go-to basher, other than maybe something that I've built. But I haven't had enough issues with it for it to say like, oh, this thing just breaks. It gives me trouble every time I go out. Those are the types of things that drive me bonkers and will kind of affect my opinion on a vehicle. But this one's been super solid. I haven't really had any issues with it other than a couple little minor things that weren't really due to breaking the truck more than just design flaws per se. So once I kind of got those kinks figured out, which I seem to have with every vehicle, you know, they say ready to run out of the box. I've never had one that's actually ready to run and can handle the way that I drive. So I take this with a grain of salt with driving styles. Everybody drives a little bit different. Some are good, some are bad. Some take it real slow and easy, just drive around the backyard, hit a foot jump. I have a huge jump. I like to send it. I like to drive fast, full trigger. I like to do crazy things. So for me, none of the trucks have really been able to handle that out of the box ready to run. And I'm not much of a fan for anybody's stock electronics, especially Traxxas's ESCs. I think they're probably some of the worst ones out there out of the box, and that's just my opinion because of tunability and how low and slow they have them. But you take out the Traxxas stock ESC, you pop something else in there, you can leave the Traxxas stock motor in there. Their motors are solid. Their ESCs, not so much. I've had a lot of problems with Traxxas ESCs, and they're just slow. Seems like they're fun right out of the box, first run, but then you're ready for more. So let me know what you guys think of the Traxxas Sledge, what problems you've had with it. For me, would I buy this again? Yeah, I would buy it again. I love the design, the paint scheme, the color design. I love all that. I think there's a few little things that you got to do, just like every other vehicle, to keep it, you know, solid. But I'm at the point now where I've got this truck so solid and figured out that I can go out and run a couple battery packs, not break anything, and drive the truck home. And that's a key aspect for me because I never am able to take a vehicle back home that's not broken. This is one of the first ones that I can do that with. So that's my review of the Traxxas Sledge. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Please subscribe, like this video, and we will be back with more videos, more bashing videos. As soon as the weather gets a little bit better, we're going to take the ramp out and do some bashing again. Some how-to videos and reviews of other vehicles that I have. So subscribe to the channel. We're getting close to 2,000 subscribers, and we're going to have a 2,000 subscriber giveaway when we get there. So I'm so excited for you all to be a part of that. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. See ya.